Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to who's a little smarter. I'm your host, Lake, and I'm joined by my co-host, Christy. Christy, how are you today?
I am well, Lake. How are you? I mean, I'm better than you.
Yeah, it's been a rough day. We had some dental emergencies happening.
That's very sad. But I'm good. I just came off a ship. I'm a little sinusy, so I feel like my voice is not quite its normal self, but I'm good. It's good to see your face.
It's good to see your face. I am excited to be here and recording, and excited to record this episode because you not only got off the ship, but you got off the ship sailing with some pretty cool people.
Yeah, such good friends.
Well, with that, we do have some people to welcome onto the show. First off, the good old podfather, as he hates to be referred to as, Steve. Steve, how are you today?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me back. So excited to talk about what was another memorable cruise with some amazing families.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here to relive these memories. But we also have another guest, another frequent flyer to the podcast. We would like to welcome Chad back to the show. Chad, how are you?
I am good. Hey guys, excited to recap kind of our cruise. And yeah, like Steve said, it was, and Christy said as well, an amazing cruise, a lot of fun, and excited to get into it.
Well, Christy, why don't we start with what cruise did you all sail on?
We were on the Fantasy over the week of Christmas. It was a 5-night to Castaway Cay and Lookout Cay. I went to Nassau, which I guess mattered to Steve, but not to the rest of us.
And I think it was like the perfect itinerary too for a 5-night, as far as we were busy the first 3 days and had Christmas Eve after our day at Lookout Cay, and then Christmas Day was at sea, which was just perfect, which one of the other ships I think went to the Lookout during Christmas Day. And as we were kind of talking about, it was nice to just get up and relax that day at sea.
It was the perfect way to spend Christmas Day.
Yeah, when you talk about a Christmas cruise, I struggle imagining anything but a sea day as your Christmas day.
And honestly, I have never seen them have a port on Christmas Day before, because I've done a couple of Christmas cruises. Steve has done a previous Christmas or a couple previous Christmas cruises. And I think we've always had a sea day on Christmas. And they always make it so that the ship either comes back before Christmas or comes back after, so that you just have that day to be with your family and friends.
I don't think it was planned, because that was the Destiny that was at Lookout that day. And I guess it was because they had a medical emergency and had to sort of reposition. So they wound up back at Lookout a day later than I think they were supposed to be. Or something like that. So they wound up having to rearrange their itinerary. So that's how they wound up at Lookout on Christmas Day.
That makes sense. That would make more sense.
Fascinating. Well, before we jump into it, Steve, Chad, what made you want to book this cruise?
So I'll start. Our plan actually originally was to be at Walt Disney World for the Christmas holiday, because we'd done that a few years ago. We actually were there the week between Christmas and New Year's, and that was kind of our plan, was to go back and do that again with my daughter being home from college and my son being off, and then I'm off that week between Christmas and New Year's. That was kind of our perfect itinerary to kind of go back and do the parks again for the first time in a few years. But the more I started talking to Steve, and he's like, "Yeah, we got this fantasy thing," I started getting the FOMO of like, and honestly, I've been looking for an excuse to get back on the fantasy for a long time, and this was a perfect way to go do that. So I asked the family, and I was like, "Hey, would you guys rather do the parks like we planned on, or do you want to do a cruise?" And it was unanimous, and everybody said they wanted to get back on the fantasy and do this cruise. We did tinker with the idea of doing the Destiny.
Yeah, the whole time were a little bit like, I wish I was on the Destiny right now.
I got really okay with it for a long time, and then all the content stuff started coming out when the Destiny launched, and I was like, oh, I really wish I was doing the Destiny. But as that subsided a little bit, it was to me, I think it was the Fantasy is still our favorite ship, and that was clear to me. Like the moment I walked back on board, it was like, all right, this is where I want to be, and this is where I should be.
Steve, what's your favorite ship?
You're going to put me on the spot there. It still is the Wonder.
Okay, I was wondering.
The Magic. But I do love the Magic, or excuse me, I do love the Fantasy and the Dream as well. And to Chad's point, the Fantasy, and I know you feel this way too. We sailed 2 years ago over Christmas on the Fantasy, and she is just stunning. She is made for Christmas, I think, in a lot of ways.
She is made for Christmas. They have the large, beautiful gingerbread house because there's so much space. They can put a whole bunch of like characters and things around it. Like, I don't know, not characters, but like it's a house at your own neighborhood where you just put a bunch of things in your yard to decorate. They can do that. It's just a huge house, gorgeous tree. They decorate all the different decks, which they do on every ship. But man, she just looks a little extra special on the Fantasy.
The way I put it was the Fantasy really shows off at Christmas. It is stunning everywhere you look.
And for those of you who've done Halloween in the high seas, Christmas is completely different. I mean, there's Halloween decorations, but it's mostly in the lobby. When you're on the DCL ships over Christmas, there are Christmas trees everywhere. There's garlands. It is just amazing. You have that vibe the whole ship over.
There were wreaths at the tables at Royal Court, and everywhere.
The cast members have these like cool little scarves and stuff like that, and the room stewards also had like, I guess they had scarves, but ours turned it into a hat. It was kind of funny. It looked pretty cool. So yeah, we ended up on it just because I guess 2 years ago we did it and we had such a good time. We don't have family around at Christmas time, so it's just the four of us. And we had such a blast on that. And I think you and I were talking, Christy, about, going back and doing it this year. And then we kind of strong-armed Chad into it as well. And it ended up being just a great time with all three of our families. And the only thing that would have made it a little bit better is if you and Katie had been there as well. Like,
oh, shucks. You all did individually message me at some point and tell me you wished I was there. So that was very touching. Well, before we get back into it, why don't we real quick talk about getting down to Florida and getting to the port?
And we should also, while you guys talk about it, just remind our listeners who is in your family.
Sure, I'll start. So I travel with my family. So I've got my wife, Lynn, was with us. My daughter, Kira, is 19, and my son, Evan, is 17. So they're fairly easy to travel with, right? We flew down the day before the cruise and stayed at the boardwalk. So it was our first time actually staying over there. And the kids had not been to that part of the Walt Disney World Resort area just to be able to show them kind of some of that stuff. So we grabbed a Beaches and Cream reservation. We tried to tackle the kitchen sink as best we could, and it was a valiant effort, but it didn't quite finish it all. But and then the next day we took the Disney transportation, so that actually got us there super early. They come in. The bad part about it is that they come pick up your luggage at 7 a.m. So you have to pack really strategically, because we were going to let them take our bigger bags, but then keeps a couple smaller bags behind. So it was all right, make sure you have all the things that you need for boarding and then for whatever you need to do to get ready in the morning kind of stuff, because nobody was ready to go at 7 a.m. So we did that and got to the port super early, wound up on boarding group 3. And I think of our 3 families, we were the first one on board. Christy wasn't too far behind us though, I think. Right.
They had just called boarding group 4 when we arrived at the port, or arrived to board the ship.
Yeah, so our family is a family of 4 as well. Andrew, my wife, Anawake, and then Andrew's 19, just like Kira, and then Alex is 15. So I was excited to be able to have dinners, and we'll talk about it a little once we get into it with your family, Chad, because I knew the kids were going to get along, and spoiler alert, they did. They had a good time all through dinner and stuff like that, which was super fun. But we flew in 2 days before. Chad was nice enough to let us stay at his resort, Animal Kingdom Lodge, and I think the first night we got in a little bit late, so we just went over to Victoria Falls. But the next day we just kind of hung out, had a chill resort day, just a beautiful resort. I went down to the pool over at Kidani, and I think I'm torn. I think Animal Kingdom, geez, everybody talks about Wilderness Lodge being, so great at Christmas time, but I think Animal Kingdom Lodge over Jamba House shines just as good with the music and the tree and everything else. That day we came over and just had a little bit of fun riding the boats and the monorail, and we met up with a good friend of the show, Anthony, over at Geyser Point, which is just another great place to grab some food as well. We were sitting outside. Andrew goes to Oregon, so we watched the Duck game, had a great dinner with Anthony, and then we were in group 13, or boarding group 13 the next day, so we weren't really in a hurry. We had a rental car, and our kind of shtick in Port Canaveral is to leave the resort at 11. That usually gets us there after the first big wave, and usually, in all honesty, you pull up, drop your bags off, park the car, walk over, and there's not too many people in line. You're on the ship in no time.
But I don't know where all the people were hiding, because there wasn't anybody in our way either. That sentence had problems, but there was nobody there. And that's a lie. I will say there were still some lines to get to security. There are some advantages to having cruised many times. And so my line, because it was past the first rush where the concierge guests had arrived, Then in the Pearl group, I think there was one family in front of us that had to check in before we did, and they got us through right away. So, but honestly, the port wasn't very busy. Parking wasn't very busy. Everything went very smoothly. My family drove over, and obviously my son is 12. So.
Yeah, I like when we got there, like we walked straight up to a gate agent and then straight up to security and right on, like we didn't have to wait for anything, up the escalator. And then I've got great pictures of practically an empty terminal because we were there so early. And, we were maybe sitting there 30 minutes before boarding actually started. So, and then, once they call family of the day, which Steve learned that there's family of the day now because he never gets there early enough to know that there's family of the day.
Who knew?
And they called family of the day. And then all of a sudden it was 1, 2, boom, we were on. So it rolled really, really quickly once they started calling those boarding groups. But yeah, I agree with Christy. Like this cruise honestly never really felt that busy ever at any point during it. And, I kept seeing people because we were in the Facebook group, right? And they were people were adding to the cruise, like within the week of the cruise, I kept saying, oh, hey, we just booked this today. This is like 7 to 10 days before we're leaving, which blows my mind, but okay. But it never really felt busy at all.
Oh, we rope dropped the first day, the deck food. It wasn't even open yet when we got on board. So we went right up to do deck food for lunch that day and had to wait for them to actually open the gates.
I said this was going to be the cruise that I was actually going to do the sit down lunch when we boarded, and then we still wound up at cabanas. That's just what we do. Get up there and get a good look at the other ships in port. It's what I like to do.
We like the sit down lunch, but obviously that menu is the same throughout all the ships and all the years. And if it's a nice day, we will do deck food because then we can sit outside if it's not terribly crowded yet, if it's not terribly hot. And we had really great weather that day.
Yeah, kids love cabanas, so usually when we're with them, they make the choice, and so we ended up there as well. But
you love cabanas too. What are you talking about? You only went to sit down lunch once in all of your cruising history, and that was because Lake was with you.
No, but I enjoyed that too. But I do like the crab legs and the shrimp that they have up there, so can't go wrong with that.
Well, before we get into all of the fun on board, why don't we discuss what cabins everyone booked and how that worked for your families?
I was in a veranda cabin, and somehow Steve and I ended up like 5 cabins away from each other. So we had the same room steward. It was really funny. And that worked out really well.
Yeah, this was actually a new one for us. So we booked category 4 room. So because we had all 4 of us, and look, at this point, my kids are full grown people at this point at 19 and 17 years old. Trying to put somebody now look, I think from a weight standpoint, it probably is fine. It's safe. It's safe enough. I know adults can sleep up there, but I was not going to ask my kids to go and climb the rickety ladder up to the upper bunk kind of thing. So we booked a Cat 4 one with those larger balconies that has the Murphy bed that kind of comes down in front of the balcony, as well as the couch bed that flips. And honestly, we had so much room in there. Like, you guys know, like my family does not travel lightly. We had like 13 bags between us. I think was when you start counting backpacks and like everything else. And we had plenty of space to put all of our things, store the bags underneath the bed and all that. I think as we travel as a family from now on, if we don't do the 2 cabin thing, that has to be our go-to at this point, because trying to get all of us being full-size people into one of the regular veranda rooms is probably going to be a little bit tight. And then again, it's more problematic when you start talking about the upper bunk thing. But that worked great for us. We were the first time having the little round shower in there, which was fun. The kids got a kick out of that.
I love that shower. I love that there's more space.
Yeah, once your kids get bigger like that, it's not even just the size of them, which it's really just, unless you're short like Christy and I, you just don't fit up in those upper things. But it's just the space, the extra space you have as well with all the clothes and stuff that you have with them. So
we booked a family veranda for my summer cruise because it was going to be so many nights long, and it wasn't that big of a price jump. And so that little extra space, even to store your bags and stuff by the end of the couch, is really nice, especially if it's a longer cruise. But Steve,
to be honest, like the Wish, I don't know the Wish and Treasure's pricing, but with the Fantasy and the Dream, it's not that much more on this. It's a lot more on the Dream or the Wonder and the Magic when you go to those, just because they don't have as many of them. But look at it if you want a little
Yeah,
bit more
for
space.
sure.
If you're on the dream or the fantasy, because sometimes it's really not that much more to get that space. We splurged a little bit on this one, and we got a veranda for Wake and I, and then we got first time we got an inside cabin for well, it's not the first time, I guess it's the second time, but they had an inside cabin right around the corner for us, and that worked out awesome. Because other than the fact that we just didn't know what they were doing for large chunks of the cruise, but they showed up at dinner every night, which was the only request we had, and to get off the ship in time too for our port adventures, and that was about it. So they did all that. So I think they had a really good time.
Yeah, the multiple messages or reminders for the night before the Castaway Day. You have to wake up by 10 or something like that. It was hilarious.
Yeah, well, I mean, because Chad can attest, when you get teenagers, and they were like in an inside cabin where there was no light coming in. They could have slept till 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So
I think you guys were the first ones off at Castaway too. Like we were later. We were later.
Yeah.
They did have a virtual porthole in their cabin. Andrew had me come and see their cabin. So it was pretty roomy, actually. Like, it would be tough potentially if you did have a family just in there, just because of the way the layout. But I thought for 2 adults, it was real 2-ish adults, right? It was like a good layout, pretty roomy.
And we booked opening day, so it really wasn't, the price between the two wasn't much more than having the large family veranda. So it all worked out. We loved it. Should we talk about the Christmas stuff?
Well, we got through the mundane and no fun of the muster drill, but you were on the fantasy. It's the holidays. Before we even get into what the ship has going on, what did your families do to prepare for Christmas aboard a cruise ship?
Well, I think like one of the funnest things that we had last time we had on board was Christmas. It was like in the Facebook group, everybody kind of planned it. This was a little bit more. Some people did, some people didn't, and people did it at different times. But was to wear pajamas on Christmas Eve. Everybody wore pajamas. I remember sitting in Ooh La La in our pajamas, listening to music, Christmas Eve, sipping some champagne, and with all the lights and everything like that on the last one. So we definitely brought our pajamas. A lot of people bring pajamas to get pictures in front of the tree or wherever else they want to. We don't bring a lot of presents. We just bring stockings. And so we just a couple gifts, for the kids and for the rest of us to do that. They do, I think it's in the D Lounge, Christy. I don't know if you checked it this time. The last time it was in the D Lounge. They they open that up Christmas morning for families. So if you have like little kids, you know what I'm talking about? No. This is for people to open presents. And so you can bring like families with all their little kids. And it's just like a time and a space where, yeah, I don't know if they did it this cruise, but they did it last one. And I thought that was kind of especially you could bring bigger kids there too, but I think it was really made for families with little kids to kind of have that magic together. So I'm not sure if they had it on this one, but
I didn't see that, but that sounds really cool.
I'm pretty sure I walked by, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I walked by the D Lounge.
Maybe they didn't do it this
before
cruise.
I met up with Coffee Club.
Yeah. But,
which we'll talk. Let me just say really quick.
Yeah.
Here's how every morning started on this cruise. We had Coffee Club where Steve and I and Chad would get coffee and sit in the cove for like 45 minutes. Wake would show up at some point. The rest of the people were all in their beds still. And we would just sit there and talk and have our coffee. And then after like the 45 minutes, Chad delivered the coffee to his wife like a good husband. And Steve and Wake and I would go to breakfast every day for like an hour and a half. We were just sitting around having a chat and drinking our coffee and having breakfast. And it was like the best way to start every day.
Matter of fact, I think you texted us, was it yesterday? Is it you wanted to go to Coffee Club again, or was it 2 days after? It's like, I miss Coffee Club.
Yeah, there was no one to drink my coffee with.
It's boring when you're home by yourself, right?
It was Coffee Club in the morning and then Espresso Martini Club in the evenings is where there was the same location, but the different missions.
Yes, before my dinner.
Chad, what did you guys, what kind of plans did you have for Christmas?
Yeah, so being the first time we've really been away from home for Christmas, it was a bit of a new adventure for us. And, what we wound up doing was we were originally going to order one of the trees from DCL because so DCL will have as part of the stateroom gifts, you can order a tree that has, and you can sort of get to keep all the ornaments that are on it. But we decided to bring our own. We could do it a little more economically. We splurged in a couple other areas on this trip. So we're like, well, let's maybe bring our own. So we found some $6 Amazon tree and I had some just battery lights that we put on it, and a little string tinsel, and a little star, and then had some actually the most of the ornaments that we used that were on there were ornaments we've gotten from fish extenders in our past Maritime cruise. So it was a nice little thing. And actually, I was going to totally dump it after we left the cruise, and I was like, all right, this will be the end of it. But the kids were like, hey, no, can we keep this for our, because after the cruise we went to Kidani, and then had a 1 bedroom over there, and then so we decided to put the tree up in there as well, so just to have our tree kind of follow us around. But it worked out awesome. And then, like Steve, we kept the gifts very simple, so gift cards and little bags and stuff like that wound up underneath the tree, stuff from Santa and my sister and stuff like that.
And for the Christmas for us, I bought all the things from DCL. I have only ever purchased in all of my 30 cruises with DCL things one time. And I think it was for my son's birthday. But I wanted the Christmas blanket, and I knew my son would love it. And I wanted the tree. I thought from the picture that there might be some lights in the tree, and there were no lights. And I was a little bit bummed about that. But the tree was great. It was very cute. It was real. And so it couldn't be taken off the ship afterward, but we were able to get all the ornaments off. And then the Christmas decor was great. My son loved it. Even when we were packing up at the end, my husband was like, I'm really glad we got all this. Thank you for getting this. I surprised them both with it. And he's like, this made it this much extra special.
Christy, was that blanket the same one that was in the gift shops?
It was not.
Okay, so it's different. Okay. So my son is a blanket collector, let's call it. Like whenever we go someplace, that's what he wants for his souvenir. He wants a blanket, right? And so we wound up buying one in the gift shops, which he loved. It's super thick and nice and quilty on the one side, and then like a Christmas decor kind of thing on the other side. But I'll have to look and see which one you guys got.
Yeah, I'll show you.
He would love that stuff.
It's fuzzy and comfortable. It was kind of nice to have in the cabin too. So I would take a nap at various times and have, curl up under the blanket. And then we brought, there was a little stocking for Blake and then some presents and Santa as well on, obviously, because, it's Christmas, on board. And it was great.
And I thought it was pretty cool too. On Christmas Eve, the captain came on and gave an update on that their radar had picked up Santa, and that Santa would be arriving at a certain time on board the ship and everything like that. So maybe the kids should go to bed early. So they kind of played it up quite a bit. So a lot of fun Christmas things while you're on board.
And then Lake did ask about Christmas. Let's quickly go through, I guess, what Christmas activities they had. So the first night of the cruise, they did a tree lighting. So they had it for both dining times, which was good because it would have been way too crowded otherwise. So they had an earlier one and a late one. And then Christmas sort of didn't happen except for pictures in the atrium every night until the very end, like Christmas Eve. Okay, so they had pictures with Santa during the week. But then holiday decorations, not decorations because they were already decorated, holiday costumes for the characters didn't occur until Christmas Eve in the afternoon, late afternoon, after everybody came back from Lookout. Did they have story time with Mrs. Claus during the cruise?
They did. We walked by. It was after dinner. So I think they did it after both dinners, or maybe after the second dinner.
Yeah, I think it was on the Nassau day, if I remember right. And then so we were walking back from dinner because I think we had it in, or maybe it was the first night because I think it was the night we were in Animators, and then walked back and I saw Mrs. Claus there was doing her story time, and then I walked back to go meet who I was meeting, one of you guys over in O'Gill's or something, because I think I was going to go watch football or something like that. And there was what I called a character rave going on in the lobby. So it turned from story time with Mrs. Claus into big character dance party, which was awesome. They were all basically all of them were there, and it was no princesses, but the usual Donald, Daisy, Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, Chippendale, I think Pluto was there too. But really, there were not very many kids there too. So I got a great picture of that, but hardly anybody there because it was so late. But it looked like a really good time for the kids that were there because they were getting really, really up close, personal, fun time with those characters that you wouldn't be able to get anything like that at a park.
That would be fun. And then they also had a deck party one night that they did like a holiday deck party, but I don't think any of us went to that, right?
I did not. I've seen the Halloween one in the past, so I probably would have been nice to go and just check that out for a few minutes. But I honestly, it wasn't even on my radar to even go look.
And then I think they had some crafts also during the week for different holiday crafts. But I think that was basically it for Christmas related type activities.
Yeah, one tip I would give is like so based on like where me and Steve and our wives were watching the tree lighting, just make sure the best place to be, like we're like, all right, we got a straight on view of the tree because we were kind of standing next to like where the elevators were, but we couldn't see where the stairs were, and a lot of the action and activity kind of happens over on those stairs. So try to get us an ideal spot would be that you could see the tree itself and as well as the stairway.
Yeah, and they had to that end before the tree lighting, they had caroling, where they had a group that did like 5 to 10 or something holiday songs. So that was really nice.
Basically, there's a lot of things going on throughout the week. They do still have Pirate Night. They still have the rave was like Mickey's Color Dance Party or something like that. It was really windy that day, so they had to bring it down. But they do have a holiday party also. So while you're on board, just check the app and look ahead of time because I think they have story time with Mrs. Claus a couple different times, but you'll want to start to make sure that you don't miss that. And then they had a meeting with Santa too. You get pictures taken with Santa, which is kind of cool in front of the tree.
And there were like many opportunities for that. The other thing is on Christmas Day, they do a whole bunch of stuff in the atrium. They have new gingerbread houses out, like littler gingerbread houses. And then they gave away like a little gift to everybody, adults and gifts included. It was sort of color your own puzzle and then put it together like craft situation. And I think we've received that before. Maybe it was at Christmas that we received it before, but I definitely feel like we've received that before on a cruise. But that was really nice. They had hot cocoa down there. They had all the officers down there in the morning. And I think Santa was back for a little bit. I mean, he had to be very tired, but he was back on Christmas morning.
Santa knows the place to be on Christmas morning. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, I'd rather be on the Fantasy too than going and hanging out on some beach.
Right? Like you need to relax at that point, but he did take some pictures before he relaxed. It would have been kind of fun if they had Santa in like now on vacation.
Yeah, like, his Hawaiian shirt on. Right?
Like he came in to go on vacation. So what else did they have in the lobby? The officers, the captain was down there early. Everybody must have been up later and, because you guys had big nights the night before Christmas. And so I think I was the first one up for Coffee Club for quite a while. So I walked around downstairs before anybody came up for Coffee Club. And
They do have a big table with, and I think this is kind of cool too. They have a big table with all kinds of different treats on it, and they're from all over, a lot of different countries. So from Italy, from England, from France, Germany. There's the gingerbread type stuff that they have over in Germany, and I think that's kind of a nice little touch too. So, and the hot chocolate was legit. It wasn't like that, prepackaged hot chocolate. It was like legit hot chocolate, like chocolate that had been melted. It was really thick.
Why didn't you tell us, Steve?
Well, I did, but I think you were talking to the one ship's officer that you were trying to figure out what she did. And she was in charge of all the hotels, the whole hotel side, right? She was super cool.
Yeah, she was very cool. But yeah, you definitely didn't tell us that it was extra good hot chocolate. I would have asked about the allergy accommodations, like what it was made of.
Because we got down there and I was like, the coffee pots were over there on what's the name of that bar that is right there off the atrium. But we're looking at that. I was like, it's probably Joffrey, so let's go upstairs. So then we went to the Cove and got our usual lattes.
So, but yeah, just a lot of different things to do. If you don't want to take partake of all the Christmas stuff, there's still, your pirate night still going and everything else. But I think that's just the atmosphere. And then everybody's always in a happy mood generally on a Disney cruise. I think it just kind of elevates itself a little bit more during some of these holiday cruise sailings.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So let's talk about, we could talk about dining, but I don't really think, besides a different menu for Christmas dinner, there really wasn't anything unique about the dining. It was the same.
No, there was. Yeah. We had an amazing family we got to sit with, which is not always the case. So it was, we and our families sat together, and that just made it, because sometimes you get paired with a family that you click with, and sometimes you don't. And that was kind of a special 5-day or special dining to be able to eat with you guys, Chad.
Yeah, we loved it too. I mean, our kids got along great, which, yeah, I was pretty confident that they would. It was really nice, especially for our two older teens that hung out a lot because they kind of had buddies. They went to the 1820 Society thing the first night to try and just see like what that was about. Now, the one thing I'll say is that they went, the feedback they kind of got was there weren't very many kids that were doing that. And I think it's because so many people are traveling with, their extended families and everything else that it maybe wasn't as busy as Andrew had seen it. Like Kira's, I think, not gone to that in the past, but I think Andrew has had more experiences with that. And so the nice part is that they had the two of them. So they went and hung out every night watching karaoke or whatever else they would watch, kind of. And then I would never hear Kira come back to the room because it was always, she was like, I was back about midnight. And they watched whatever till whatever. And then she would be back in the room at that point.
I will say, though, that 1820 group seemed to grow because that night that we went to Match Your Mate, there was a large group of them hanging out together, watching together. Like, that was a pretty sizable group. It didn't matter. Andrew and Kara had each other, which is perfect. They got to hang out for the cruise, and that worked out perfectly. But at least for other listeners, like, this is something you could send your kid to the first day to see if, there's people they want to hang out with for the cruise. I think it's great that Disney does that.
Steve, Alex hung out in the revamped Vibe quite a bit, didn't he?
Oh, he was gone the entire week. We didn't even see him for like 2 days.
He didn't even hang out in the cabana too long either. No, he loved it. The only thing he said was when they redid and took the edge out of the funnel, and now there's a suite in the funnel. They moved the edge and the Vibe together, so it cut the Vibe in half, so there's a little bit less, but still had a great time. Was still able to meet up with a good group of kids, and like Christy said, we didn't see him too much. We'd see him every now and then, but we saw him with his group, and one of them. Well, I won't even go there, but they all had a great time. One of them, I think, like opened the door for me and said, "Excuse me, sir." So I mean, good mannered kids too, man. So
yeah, I didn't see like any like rowdy teens or like people that were being super rowdy on this cruise. I mean, honestly, I know they get a bad rap sometimes for that, but I didn't experience that at all on this cruise.
Yeah, same. Blake really enjoyed going to the edge, and I would say, I hate to say he really enjoyed it because he had periods of time where he had a lot of fun there. There would be other times he would go and he'd be like, nothing's going on, or people are just playing video games. He really enjoyed when he got to go outside, though, with the area Edge took over a Vibe where they have the outside deck, and there'd be times where that would be open for the Edge. And he loved being in that little pool outside.
Yeah, so if you're in the Fantasy of the Dream, look out the front of the ship and you look down, and you think that a lot of times that's where the crew gets to hang out, but that's part of Edge and Vibe. They've actually got a pool, a bunch of deck chairs, and everything else. I think that's a really cool space for kids when it's nice.
Yeah, Magic and Wonder, that's a crew space, right? But on the Dream Class ships, that's Kids Club, which is really cool space.
I know the last night of the cruise, Blake went back to the Edge and he did not want to come back. Like, I think he was out till 11. He was just having a great time. All right, we'll talk about the ports in just a second. Let's talk about Palo briefly. I spent 100 hours in Palo over 2 meals. We had a lovely server, but the slowest dining experiences in the history of all of Palo. The dinner we went to with Steve and Wake, we all did together. Well, so, the 4 of us went to dinner that night, and it was like 3 hours long. So that was really good. I thought the food was good, though. I had the sinus infection, and so my smell was gone and taste for the first few days of the cruise. And I definitely didn't taste much of that meal, which is very, very sad.
Yeah, I thought other than the length of the meal, I think Paula was, since you didn't get to taste it, was right on point. All the food was really good. It was well prepared. Yeah, I love Palo. I love I love that space and in the field and the vibe up there.
And then I went to brunch. So Chad booked brunch for me, and we changed the name so that I could go with Dave. And I went because there were rumors that other ships had gluten-free lasagna. They didn't have gluten-free lasagna. I ended up getting a little bit of gluten that day. That Paolo doesn't know how it could have happened. I am not 100% convinced that my chicken parm was not switched with Dave's chicken parm, but the food was all good. Again, what I could taste of it. And they were great about it, but nobody really knows. But I definitely had a food reaction that day. And Dave and I shared some stuff. And so maybe a crumb came from we don't know. One more point on the allergy really quick. So the first night we were at Royal Court and some of you have heard me talk about this before, but Royal Court has the fried brie, but it has to be pre-ordered. I didn't go to try to pre-order my lunch, my dinner. I just didn't, it wasn't important enough. And again, I had that whole lack of taste thing. So it wasn't as important that I got the fried brie that day. And the server was able to work it out where he got me fried brie the next days. So it wasn't a problem. And they actually even served it to me, even though it wouldn't have been on the menu that night, on the Christmas dinner night, because the appetizers were not gluten-free and some of them couldn't be done. So he's like, we just got you another fried brie. So that was really nice. They did a great job in the dining room for me, gluten-free. And even that day I needed to pivot to plain chicken. They were able to do that very easily. I had a really good regular dining experience. Still slow though. I felt like we sat for these meals forever.
That's the first time I had the chicken on board as far as that quick service. What is it called? I can't remember. Something's Cantina.
The tacos?
Yeah, the tacos. Yeah.
Ramon.
Yeah, sorry, chicken. Well, I had chicken tacos. I'm sorry. So Ramon's Cantina. That was solid. That was really good. I like the fact that you get some guacamole, a lot of different things you can choose to put on it. Tacos, burritos, or get a bowl. That was a good addition.
I don't know why I never got those. Like, why didn't I get them the first day? So I ate chicken tenders. That is true. They weren't.
And then the line was super long the other time we went.
That bar didn't open forever, or like section of the food. Yeah, I ate more like chicken tenders and maybe a burger at some point up in quick service during the week. But okay, let's go to the port. So let's start with Nassau. One of us did something in Nassau, and that would be Steve.
Yeah, so our family likes to dive on the cruises, and don't overlook Nassau. It's a great dive. Stewart Cove, the 2 times we've dove with them, fun dive masters, nice ship. It's a pretty quick ride out to the 2 different spots. They feed sharks. Not while you're there on this one. You can do a shark feeding one, but because they feed sharks, one of the best places they take you first is a wreck, and that's where kind of the shark feeding spot is. When the boat pulls up, all the sharks think they're going to get fed. They're kind of like dogs, and they come running. And then once you get down there was like sharks everywhere, and they're Caribbean reef sharks, so they're totally fine. They're more afraid of you than anything else. They kind of, when they see they're not going to get fed, they take off. But the first dive is a wreck, usually with sharks, a lot of fish to look around that, and then the second dive is a nice wall dive with a lot of coral along the wall. Once you get up above the wall, the coral's starting to die off a little bit. Still a lot of fish as well. So don't overlook if you're diving in Nassau. It's probably one of our favorite places that we've dove in the Caribbean. As far as sailing with Disney Cruise Line, there are better places, but if you're on DCL on just one of the regular sailings, that's a solid place to dive. I
need to try that sometime. And there was only like 6 people on your whole excursion, and you were 4 of them, right?
Yeah, I think there were 7, but it was really windy that day. It was pretty wavy, and the ship was rocking. So the little boat, I guess, was rocking, but it was still, once you got below the water, it was fine.
Yeah, the first 3 days of our cruise was very wavy, very wavy. I was actually seasick the 3rd night. The waves were getting to be quite a bit. All right, so Nassau. Chad, did you get off? You went off to go shopping, no?
Yeah, we went to, my daughter wanted to get a couple things for her roommates, so we stepped off just to go to the shopping area on kind of without leaving the secure zone, kind of, let's call it. So that's been all redone since we really had gotten off. It's been years since we've gotten off in Nassau. It was fine. Like it's set up almost like the straw market was, but not quite as sketchy, where people are like constantly hounding you for stuff. Like you walk in and out of little shops that they've got that are set up there. And so she got some things for her roommates, and then we were back on board. Honestly, we were probably on and off within 45 minutes. We didn't stay very long. I was going to grab like a 6-pack because they had like the duty-free thing for 6-packs until I got it to the counter, and they told me it was $35. I'm like, nah, I don't want that bad. So I can pay $35 on board for that.
Exactly. Nice and cold.
Right. So I was like, pass. So yeah, wouldn't necessarily, and they didn't have prices on it when it was on the shelf, and now you know why, because yeah. So we were just off just to kind of wander around. The only other thing that I did that day was I went to go see Avatar. So I wound up basically doing the early 8:45 show and was done with the movie by noon, because it's a 3-hour, 15-minute movie. So while Steve was being super active, I was just sitting on my butt and watching 3 hours of the Na'vi.
Well, then I went to brunch for 3 hours, so more sitting. Okay, so then the next day was Castaway.
So we wound up in cabanas, which was really, really incredible and cool. And it was the new ones, the new Mickey and Minnie Cove cabanas. And so how it kind of happened was, I joined these Facebook cruise groups as a lot of us do. And, having now been this is our 10th cruise, so platinum now, yay. There's not a lot that I get out of those groups anymore. But the last two times that I've been in these Facebook groups, there has been a post where somebody's like, "Hey, cabanas just dropped," and I happened to look at the right time. Now, I'll say for the last one, when it was just my wife and I, we were in a Serenity Bay cabana, so there was a couple that happened to open up, and I was able to grab one. This one, and I don't know if it was because obviously they're new, so they probably dropped 20 of these things in there because somebody's like, "Hey, there's a whole bunch of cabanas just opened up in this new Mickey and Minnie Cove." Because I think when we got on to book everything, it just showed that they were all booked. Like, and I don't know if it's because they just hadn't opened them up yet or whatever, but were they there? Like, I don't, maybe not. I don't often look because I mean, me being gold, like there's no chance that I'm going to get a cabana at that point. So I don't even bother to look most of the time. But somebody's like, "Hey, they dropped these things." So I'm messaging with the two of you and I'm like, "Hey, I was hoping that we could get the grand because that holds all that, all 12 of us could fit in there." And then Christy's like, "Let's just get two." So we got two. And so, yeah, and we kind of booked this a bit. It's a bit sight unseen, right? Because at the time, like we had no idea where these things, we general idea about where they were, but like we booked cabanas 1 and 2, not knowing like exactly the location of that. Where is that toward? Is it on the end, like with the far end? Is it on the close end? Like where is all this stuff? And it wound up being like we found out a couple of weeks before when you started seeing some of the social media stuff come out. We're like, okay, the 1 and 2 are those first two on your right as you go past the hangar bar, I think it's called, for Serenity Bay, which is a great space in and of itself. And we're like, it's like I wish we were a little bit further from kind of some of the adult stuff and whatnot. And right behind us was all the food service stuff, so we were worried about it being really busy, kind of like a lot of people kind of coming and going and whatnot. And honestly, it was awesome.
It was so awesome.
Because we had those two cabanas and like they're kind of pitched towards each other. And then there's like this greenery hedge space or whatever it is, like berm, like right to the right of you. It was super private for our space. So we actually wound up sitting mostly kind of in front of Cabana 1 as a group, just kind of hanging out. That then gave us buffer to the people that were over in Cabana 3, who I'm sure were lovely people, but we were trying to hang out with our own selves. And it made for a really awesome day. And it was totally a bit unexpected. This is where I said that all of a sudden, there were some splurges that kind of happened that I wouldn't have normally budgeted for, and I was like, maybe not the tree in the room. I'll find the Amazon $6 tree instead. Yeah, we didn't do Palo. We didn't do but we splurged on when we got to the park. We still did some the lightning lane multi-pass whatever stuff. So there's splurging there too. But it made for a really really awesome lovely day out there. And those cabanas are great. The one thing you should actually talk about this, Christy, because you're the one that noticed this, the furniture.
Yeah. So the other cabanas, and I don't even know what they're called. They have a name and I've seen it and I don't know what they're called.
They just changed the name too, because they were the family cabanas. Now they're the seashell cabanas or something. I can't remember what they call it. Anyway.
So the cabanas that everybody used to know that you had to be basically in concierge to be able to book, the original cabanas, they have this double-seated lounger that has a super thick cushion and is super comfortable, and it's huge. You can literally fit 3 adults. We have fit 3 adults on there many times. And just lovely, just a lovely lounger. And these cabanas did not have it. And I asked an officer if they were missing, if furniture was still arriving. So I don't know if they're going to put in more furniture, but I will say, there's a cover so that if it's sunny, you can be under there, or if the weather might be slightly inclement, you could be under there. And there's no furniture. There's 1 row of seating, and for this cabana that could fit up to 10 people, and then 2 random chairs that really belong inside the cabana.
Yeah, those 2 chairs that were outside are normally up opposite the couch across from the coffee table thing. Inside the cabana, yep. And then there was this other little, I don't know what you call a little chase lounge, kind of small chair. It was super small. Yeah, it was super small. You and Lynn wound up actually sitting sideways and using the coffee table to extend yourselves to be able to sit there with kind of pillows on your back up against the railing. But the seating is much less in these cabanas versus the other ones. And I'll say even the Serenity Bay cabana that we were in back in March had those 2 super cushy chase lounges with 7-inch thick padding or whatever it is. So those they are there, but they are not in these particular cabanas, which is a little bit strange.
In this case, it didn't matter because we were all hanging out together. It was a gorgeous day. And so we all just sat on these lounger chairs, which there were way more lounger chairs than I feel like there typically are. And I don't know if they pulled out more because there's no chaise lounge chairs in the cabana, or if they did it because based upon our size of our group. But there were tons of loungers available for us.
Yeah, there were a ton, and there's a lot more beach area too than I was expecting. Like I feel like the Serenity Bay beach is very short and it's pitched really, really, really aggressively. This was not like that. It was really well graded, and I thought it was awesome. We had a great day there.
My son and Chad's son, and then Andrew came in a little bit too. Steve's son, they built like this intricate sand castle situation. There was like a cruise ship and a castle and a whole, like Blake worked on it for the entirety of the day out there. Food was really good. If you have an allergy, you don't have to go all the way to Cookies One. That is the best feature of this cabana, is that they are able to accommodate allergies. I think on some level, my food worked out better than everybody else's because I didn't have to sort of stand in this weird line where stuff was maybe set up a little weird. Like there were condiments before you ever got to the food. So then you'd have to like circle back, and they'll work out some growing pains, I think, as it relates to all of that.
Steve and I took a walk all the way kind of around because it sort of wraps around the corner up there into like a little loop and stuff like that. But about halfway through all these cabanas, because there's 31 of these, something like that, of these things. So you get about halfway, let's call it 15-ish. There's also a bar and bathrooms and stuff back there, which are very nice. And now for us, like given how close we were, the adults at least could go use the close one that was right there at the hangar bar. But the bathroom area and the bar area kind of down there that they've just opened up for these cabanas was really nice.
Yeah. And Minnie Mouse came through at some point. You texted me that, Chad, that Minnie was out, and I instantly ran out and got some cute pictures with Minnie.
I was going to get changed after running the 5K, and I was walking down to the bathroom over there to go get changed. And all of a sudden I'm like, hey, Minnie's out here. So I got a quick selfie and texted Christy, who I knew would be very interested in that. And she hopped out of her chair about as fast as you could and came and got a picture.
These are accurate facts. And did they have a changing station in that like changing room, or is it just stalls?
Oh, no. It was just stalls. Yeah. Yeah, there was a baby changing thing that was in the larger stall, because I think I changed in the handicap stall that was there, a little more space. There was no like dedicated changing rooms or anything that I saw.
Yeah, so it was really nice. Bar service was fantastic. We had a guy that came around probably more times than we all needed them to come around. I feel like that last round was probably a mistake, but it was super fun, and we're on vacation.
That's the first time we stayed in the cabanas, and we've always kind of wondered, like, is it really worth staying in there? And it was awesome. It was nice having, Castaway and Lookout are very enjoyable places, but it was nice having that just kind of extra space to yourself where you didn't have like the crowds of people necessarily. So that was really enjoyable. I know somebody asked me, was worried about Serenity Bay, whether it's going to be because of all those cabanas, it was going to cause backups to the barbecue and to the bar there. But as you were talking about, Chad and Christy, there's another bar, and that bar serviced all the new cabanas. And so I didn't see hardly anybody over at the can't remember what the Serenity Bay bar. So I don't think it's going to have a huge impact for people that are just going to Serenity Bay, because there's that extra bar down there. And then having the barbecue place right across from, it was nice to just go get the food and bring it back to our cabana and sit there and watch the beach and everything else. So we loved it.
That seafood rice thing that they had over there at the Hangar 98
that was
bar,
good.
That was so good. Highly recommend if you're into kind of like, it was a bit of a Cajun-y kind of something like that.
I'm pretty sure Mickey and Minnie had the Grand Cabana down at the end, and that's why we couldn't get that one. So I think that's where she was headed when you saw her, Christy.
Those are the highlights.
Chad's got a good hack, which I've never thought of before. With if you're running the Castaway 5K and you're staying over at Serenity Bay or something like that, walk down, put your stuff down, then run it backwards. Run when you get down to the start line, grab your medal, and then run back the other way to Serenity Bay, rather than don't start, finish, and then have to walk all the way back down there. I thought that was a good
I call that my reverse Castaway 5K. So you start in the middle, and then your middle point then becomes your medal pickup. throw it in your pocket, and because you're sweaty enough, it's you look like you finished the 5K, and then just go back. And then now I'm saying, for integrity's sake, make sure you finish it, do it right. Yeah, why spend the extra time? Especially when we had the cabana, I wanted to be in that cabana.
And I think Chad and I did win it, but we're still waiting for the results, so they haven't come out yet. But it was a perfect day. I think Chad, we were sitting out there at one point. You're like this is it can't get any better. It was like just a little bit of a breeze to keep it cool, so it didn't get overly hot, and but yes, sunny and warm, and yeah, it was amazing.
We had incredible weather almost this entire trip, beyond it being a little bit breezy, like you mentioned on the Nassau day. But like it was warm without being hot. Where you just were uncomfortable after a while. It was incredible weather the entire trip.
So then Lookout was the next day. And Steve, it was right. Your family had never been to Lookout.
Yeah, it was our first time, so I was kind of excited to see. And okay, so I don't think well, I'm not going to get into controversy of it, but I didn't think it was that bad of a walk going back and forth.
I mean, it depends if you're incapable of walking, right? Or you have children, or there are people that walk is a problem for.
They make a lot of accommodations for that, though. Like there was a lot of messages that were sent in the app of like, hey, because I think they know people have anxiety about it. So they're like, if you need help, we will get you help. So if anybody's out there listening and they're super worried about it, I think, like my parents, I think, have been anxious about going to Lookout because of how long that is. They make accommodations, so they will help you if you need that help.
And they have strollers, so not strollers, but wagons for lugging younger children and things to the beach, which is helpful because I mean, it is a full half-mile walk, which for some people that is could you imagine when we had 1-year-olds, if you're like trying to get the 1-year-olds down that pier, like that'd be a lot, even 3-year-olds, frankly, but it's gorgeous. So what did you think, Steve?
I felt like it was like, I mean, they're similar but different. Definitely not as, I mean, it's themed, but not as overly themed, at least yet. It felt like a Hawaii day, a day at Hawaii at the beach. I like the fact that Christy, you guys had stayed this before, but like you go into, once you get off the tram, go all the way to the right. There's the final bar there. Not as many people go down that way. So there was plenty of like just cabana type chairs with umbrellas if you wanted to use it like right in front of the bar. Or not cabana, but Chase Lounge. That's what I'm trying to find. Yeah, those Chase Lounge chairs, which you could easily grab one of those. And then there was a berm, so you couldn't really quite see the ocean when you're laying in there, but you just go up and over the berm, and there's the beach right there. So you could spend the whole time down on the beach and then come back and be away from it a little bit.
You could hear the ocean.
Yes.
So you could be laying there, which I did at one point for a little while, and you can hear the ocean waves, which you don't really get at Castaway. And then Castaway, you just get a lot of screaming children, usually.
Yeah. And I kind of like the way they break it up. And it's been covered enough times, but I liked the thing that I kind of liked was the fact that they broke it up. So it wasn't like you had to walk all the way down there just to do this. You had to walk all the way down there. It was kind of like each space, there was like, so you could go to each different space and it was close enough to food, whether you went to the first food or the second food, or I don't know. I just, there's some things that they need to work on with it as far as like waiting for the trees to grow. So have a little bit more shade and stuff like that. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought the beach was beautiful. We went out in the water a little bit. The water was decent. There's a secret beach you can get to, which I do some research on that. I'm not going to say how to get there, but there's like a little secret beach that you get to. Yeah, that looks back over to the ship and everything like that. Chad and I and Evan, right? Yeah, Chad, Evan, and I kind of did the nature trail and ended up down on the little beach there where they had paddle boards and kayaks and stuff like that on the opposite side of the island from where everybody hangs out.
Steve happened to see like a guide like take some people over a rope, and he's like, "Let's go see where they're going." And we were rewarded with an incredible view of the ship. I think I saw you had a great clip of it on your DCL Adventurers Instagram account.
Yeah, I think we both took that same video. It was amazing. So
I got like it was just a picture, but I think I was after I saw your video, I was regretting that and not grabbing that.
Well, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, and I talked about it after the Destiny cruise that for allergies, you don't have to go to True 2 anymore. Now you can tell your server when you're pre-ordering for your allergy which food place you are going to eat at. If you're going to buy it, you're in one area, or if you're an adult, you're in the Serenity, or if you're at one of the True 2s. And so I was able to say my allergy for True 1 or whatever, just True Barbecue. It worked out perfectly. So they had my slip. They got the food. I mean, it still takes a little while, but it wasn't too long. And it really worked out well.
So it's only my second time there, but I swear that when we were there in March, that because we did the same exact itinerary in March, just without all the Christmassy stuff, and I swear that they were like, it's the same stuff at every line, just go ahead and get it. Like it was more combined than it was. Now we went because the True was so backed up. We walked to the True 2. So maybe it's different there than it is at True. But like, I was like, oh, wait, I wanted to be in that line because I actually wanted this. And I got in the wrong line. And it was kind of a mess.
So Dave, though, said that this time, because he was getting the food with Blake, he said that, they have those big signs up that they originally had when the island first was created or opened 2 years ago or whatever. It would be like burgers and hot dogs in this line, and then chicken in like the rice bowls in this line. But then Dave said, actually, some of the stations had it all. And some of them had like the chicken, which Dave wanted, and the fruit that my kid wanted, plus the hot dog. Like, so it is a matter a little bit. I guess I would go up to all of the windows and have a peek. Make sure that the food you guys want is in that line and then get in the line. And that is the one problem. The line is kind of long and it's not covered. And that might be something they still need to work out a little bit.
It really backs up around the lunchtime. So now far cry from what granted it was, because we had lunch with the cabana area and stuff like that. So it wasn't nearly as backed up, but like I got there and I was like, it was almost overwhelming, like trying to figure out what line do I want to be in? What's up there? It was just, I wish it was a little bit set up a little bit differently. It seems like there's an opportunity to improve there.
So the beach though, isn't it a lovely beach, Steve?
Oh, it's beautiful. I like the fact that there's actually some waves. I mean, not over, the day we were there wasn't overpowering. I've heard it can be at different times, but yeah, just white, sandy beaches, that kind of that powdery white sand that just makes you want to hang out there. Wake and I walked all the way from Serenity Bay all the way to the end of the beach down there, the south part of the island. And it was just really enjoyable watching people play. And it's just families having a great time together. And we were talking about afterwards, like, which one's our favorite? They're so different in so many different ways. So I'm not sure that I really have a favorite. If you could go to both on an itinerary, I think that's a great way to do it. But I don't think I'd be happy going to either one.
It's just beautiful. And that sand is so soft and beautiful. So I want all the listeners to go and report back. I just want to hear your opinion because it is just so stunning. And that water is so clear. It's a really, really special location.
What are some highlights, Chad, that you had? Because I know you've got a couple, unless you want to talk about something, Christy.
I think for me, the highlight of this was the family time. And look, my daughter is off to school now, so we had just gotten her the day before to kind of go get her from college and stuff like that. So the fact that we all get to stay together and have dinner together and all of that is a bit of a novelty for our family these days, and it makes for really special time together. I think the Christmas theming, like we talked about, the fantasy really shows off for all things Christmas. It's gorgeous everywhere. Spending time with you guys and your incredible families was a lot of fun too. So it was a really, really great week, being able to hang out and spend some time together, both with you guys and then with our family.
Yeah, I would echo kind of the same things too. As your kids get older and they kind of start to move on, you have fewer times during the year that you can actually spend time together. And we've kind of acknowledged that Christmas is it for us. So that going for the next several years is going to be our kind of a big family vacation because summer gets busy and spring breaks kind of different on different schedules and everything like that. So, but man, what a magical time to do it, and to be able to spend it with good friends is just a great way to do it.
And Christmas sailing is just slower in general. Like everything just is more relaxed. I feel like in slow, like you're not running around Europe or Alaska it's just so much more chill. I really love that aspect of it. A couple things we didn't talk about is we did go to trivia a couple of times. We all did 80s trivia, which, oh my gosh, Anna Wake is like a ringer. Like she would hear a part of one note and write everything down. It was so great. She
was carrying us for sure.
She did. Yeah, and I think Dave got a couple, and maybe Steve and I were like, well, we know one, which I'm pretty sure everybody else already knew when we finally knew one, but we were so excited to know one that we had to write our answers down. We missed two, and there were like 4 teams that got them all right. But it was so fun. And then We would do like meet for a drink in between our dinner services and listen to some live music. And that was really lovely. We did a couple of tastings as a group. We did a gin tasting and a wine tasting. No pin for me this time. No pin. And there's no more pin to be had for wine tasting.
Of the two of those tastings, the gin was the star.
The gin was the star. The wine wasn't that good.
I think that was probably the weakest one that we've been to, and I don't want to like throw the poor sommelier under the boat, but like he was engaging, but I don't. I've liked it done different ways, but Marco and the gin tasting was phenomenal because I don't know a lot about gin, and he had just such a way of like talking about the different flavors and how you can enhance them or change them or whatever else. Yeah, that
it was incredible because
special.
they'd be like, you try it, let's call it raw. I don't know how it's straight, right? And then you drop it like one ice cube in, and like, all right, how does that change the profile?
Completely.
And then you add like these little things, like the add, and it was really really cool the way that they had that whole thing was structured and set up. I would totally do that tasting again. I had such a good time with that and learned so much. To the point like where we've all been texting since we've been back, and like Steve's like, hey, I found this gin that we had, and I was like, oh, I just came back and was hitting the grocery store for some essentials and happened to find the tonic water that they use for this. So I'm gonna start, if I'm feeling a little better tomorrow for New Year's Eve, I'm gonna start tinkering with that a little bit because I tried to take some notes on which I think I still to you guys, but it was a lot of fun. I would totally do that again. And I was not as excited about gin as Christy was. I was like, all right, I'll go do it because Christy wants to do it. And but I had a great time, and Marco was amazing. I totally agree, and learned a lot.
Yeah, and in Meridian with the windows in the background, you're watching the ocean as you're tasting some gin, having a boozy Christmas, as Christy called it, with our two tastings.
Yeah, it
Christmas
didn't
Day.
help that the wine tasting was an hour after the gin tasting. So we had such a great like the bar was set so high with gin that also now you go to wine, and it was like, I mean, it was fine, but it wasn't the experience that we got with gin tasting for sure.
But it was still fun. It was a fun thing to do. And then Chad, you went to one show or two shows?
We just did one. We meant to get to Frozen at some point, but we went to Aladdin, which to me the genie always makes or breaks that show, and we had a great genie that's on the fantasy right now. So when he's gonna be going, it's the cast was incredible. My son and I went. I don't think Lynn or our daughter like went to any of the shows, to be honest with you. But we went to Aladdin, and we went to the matinee, which actually the first time I've ever gone to a matinee show, which is awesome because it just frees up your day to your evening to be able to do more things and stuff like that. I probably would have gone to Frozen, but that was the same day I think that it was Lookout. And by the time we got back from Lookout, I was so tired after being in the sun. I was like, you know what, I need a nap. So I took a nap instead of going to Frozen.
We watched Frozen on the TV, and Olaf is really good in that version. It's recorded forever, years ago or whatever. Blake wanted to watch it, but we didn't want to go to the theater, so we just watched it in the room. So it's something to keep in mind. I think it starts for second dining at 8:30, where you can watch the theater productions that have been recorded in your room. We do that a lot, actually. It isn't the same because, like I said, some of the performers aren't the same. It is super nice to just be in your PJs and watch and kind of get to do your own thing.
And Chad and I and Lynn and Wake got to watch a little bit of football too. And I think DCL stands for Denver Chiefs and Lions because every single one of their games was on over Christmas Day and the weekend before. So
I was pleasantly surprised because all of the Christmas Day games were streaming. So on either Netflix or Prime. So I gave it no chance that we were going to get those games, and the mouse actually ponied up the whatever the funds were to get those games on board. And so yeah, they had the Netflix games and the Amazon Prime game going on in O'Gill's, and one of them was on the big screen on the Funnel Vision.
And who won that game?
Yeah. Denver won. Yeah.
Denver won. That was awesome. Watching the Broncos at sea on the Funnel Vision. Can't get much better than that.
Yeah, I was like, as soon as I saw that, because Steve and I are Denver fans, and so I was like, I saw they were gonna be playing on Christmas Eve, and I was like, oh, we'll have to go after our dinner service, because it ends at midnight, Christy, and we go watch the end of the game, and I was like, and then when I happened to see that it was on Amazon Prime, I was like, there's no way we're not gonna get that game. And sure enough, like Steve's like, hey, I think O'Gill's is showing NFL football is on their schedule for the day. And sure enough, they had all the games. So I got my wife is a big Lions fan, so she got to see her Lions twice. They unfortunately lost twice while they were there. And then I went one for one. I went 1 for 1 watching Denver. Lost one, won one.
I think that's the rest of the real highlights. I want to talk briefly about disembarkation. And Chad, you took Disney transportation back to Kidani, and I feel like I drove all the way home before you ever left. Like, we were on Disney property before you ever left the port.
That's probably accurate. Yeah. We sat there a while. And honestly, like, we didn't sit there nearly as long. Like, we got on, that bus was probably 75-80% full.
But you were there another hour.
But like waiting for those like we were off we didn't get off until like we were probably one of the last ones out of our stateroom, to be honest with you. So, but I think waiting for those last stragglers to get off the ship was I think if we'd gotten off earlier, you probably get out of there earlier because they probably have already filled a bus or whatever. And then they were waiting for those stragglers to kind of come in and fill up the bus. But it took a while. So I'll say like that is a downside of transportation. Like coming there, it's fairly standard. It's great because you get on early, stuff like that. It is a downside of the Disney transportation when you leave because you have to wait for that bus to fill up. And until it fills up, it's not going anywhere.
Did they tell you to leave, like to be on the bus by a certain time?
I think they said that we needed to be off by like 8:15. Lynn had all those details. She's the detail lady. Something like that. No, I think we were pretty close to 8:30. I think it said like leave. I can't remember now. But it was they gave us details on like where and when to go and get off. But I think we were pretty close to that.
I don't know if as a whole the ship was, if people just got off at different times, but when I left the ship around 8:15 or so, there was almost no line and immigration was quick as ever. Getting our luggage, because we did put a couple of our bags out the night before, that was like everything went very quick, very easy. Getting out of there was easy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because like when we went to go get our luggage, there was still a lot of luggage sitting there. So there's no way we were like the very last people off that ship either, because there was still a lot of stuff that was sitting there as we went to go get our luggage.
Yeah, but just if you're trying to rope drop, maybe if you don't have to worry about a car seat or something, and you're clearly not rope dropping when you get off a cruise ship. But if you're trying to be one of the first people to get to a park on your last day of the disembarkation day, then I would say maybe take a lift to get to Walt Disney World, because that was literally my entire drive home. You waited.
That might be our move next time because we don't need car seats or anything like that. We'll just get off the ship and then grab a lift and then take that. You gave me a nice tip and saved me $14. Hey, don't pre-order your lift. Order it when you, so like it was like 68. This is for me to get to the airport, whatever it was. It was like, well, it'll be $68 to get to the airport. Well, it was only 54 when I booked it the next morning. So it was great.
If the park isn't closing, or if it's not you have to leave at 5 or 6 to get to the airport, 5 or 6 in the morning to get to the airport. In Walt Disney World area, you do not need to pre-order your lift. You're going to get a great driver, great car, and it's like they know the game and they are churning and burning. There's tons of drivers. They do. And so, if I have an early airport drive where I have to leave my house at 5 or 6, I pre-order that lift because you got to literally wake somebody up to get driven to the airport. But after that, you don't need to. And potentially if it's raining, remember we experienced this in London. I did that. My pre-ordered lift was cheaper because the rain had gotten so bad by the time it was time for me to leave to go to the port. So, surge pricing or whatever. But you don't have to worry about that during non-rush hour times. So that was our cruise. We all booked placeholders, I think.
Yeah, I got 2 right now. I got 2 that are sitting waiting for me to figure out what to do with. I kept hoping I was going to be able to try and use it for one of them for my Panama Canal cruise, but then Christy disappointed me saying that is not a thing you can do. So I got 2. I got to burn between now and the next 2 years. Well, I guess one's up in about a year and a half. So I got to figure out when we're going to use that.
Yeah, and people don't seem to know they are refundable. So if you at any time decide to cancel it, you can get your $250 back. Or if you don't cancel it, but your 2 years is up, Disney will just put your $250 back. So that's great. It's not something you have to worry about.
No, I book it every time, whether we've got plans or not. I book it every time because you just like, and honestly, like we've booked them many times where we just don't know what we're going to wind up doing, and then something comes up and we're like, hey, we've got the placeholder, let's go use it. So we have found a way to use every single one. I'm really wondering about this one from March, whether I'm going to use it just based on other plans that we've got, but it's good to have it just in case. I keep wanting to jump back out and go grab a wonder sailing with Stephen Wake or something out of the West Coast or something like that. It'd be fun.
Just let us know when you're coming out here. That's a quick drop down there, and we love the wonder, so love to do that. First world problems, right? To have those placeholders.
All right. Well, guys, thank you for coming on and talking with us. Steve, where can we find you on the internet?
Pretty much just on the Instagram right now, DCL_adventurers. Try and put some stuff up there a couple times a week, at least if I find something interesting. And definitely when we're traveling and get back from traveling, and kind of try and take some pictures and some videos and everything like that and throw it up there. So it's just a fun place to interact and follow everybody else that have got now in the Disney Cruise Line community. Fun to follow you too, Chad and Christy. So that's where you can find me.
And Chad, do you have anything you want to share or?
No, I've got a fledgling Instagram account that I'm starting to think about doing more with. It's been out there for a while, but it's untangle_the_magic that I'm trying to do more with. And I kept meaning to do a lot of posting with that on this cruise. And I just was enjoying myself. And so I was like, you know what? Not trying to make money with this. This is just more me just like hanging out and sharing things that I find interesting or convenient and things that have helped my family along the way. So that's kind of what I plan to do with that account over the years. So if anybody wants to follow me, it may or may not get any better. I can't promise anything.
Well, and you could do later grams. That's a whole thing where you can post after the fact. So Lake and I want to wish all of our listeners a very happy holidays and a happy new year. We thank you for your support. We will get a Cabanas episode out hopefully in January with sort of what do we have going on and just, whatever, start the new year off type deal. I believe that we'll get a new release for cruises in either January or February. So that'll be something to look forward to. And we'll make sure to bring you that content. You can follow me, Pack Your Pixie Dust, all over the internet. Instagram, Facebook are where I am the most active. And I actually have 2 room tours up on my YouTube channel. So I would love for you to check those out at Pack Your Pixie Dust. I'm going to try to do more with it. We'll see what we have going on.
You probably have that cabana tour pretty soon, yeah?
Yeah, I will have a cabana tour as well for the new cabanas. And then you can follow Lake at MouseGen on YouTube and Instagram. And you can follow the podcast at DCL Podcast on Instagram and Facebook and listen on YouTube if you want as well. And then if anybody wants to work with me, there is a link in the show notes that you can reach out and I'd be happy to be your travel planner if you do not have one that you're working with. I just want to say thank you to those clients and listeners that have worked with me. I actually had my best year of travel ever in 2025 of sales. And a lot of it is because of this podcast. And so I'm very grateful and thankful. And if you are not working with somebody, I would love to work with you going forward. Thank you guys for coming on. And we'll see you next time on the DCL podcast. Bye, everyone.
Well, it's going to wrap up the show. Once again, we want to thank Christy, Steve, and Chad for coming on and sharing their Christmas cruise on the Disney Fantasy. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'd also like to thank our Patreons who help make this show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/DCLpodcast. Whether you're boarding a cruise, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Christy, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travels. And we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.